All right, everyone, how's it going? Alyssa Orange, Mike Irwin. Time for some Ask Mike Tuesday edition, post-NCAA tournament edition. We had to postpone it a day just because the Hawks played yesterday, and just in case you had any basketball questions, we could squeeze in today. All right, our first question comes from Eddie Lynn, who asks, do you think Arkansas was overmatched against Baylor?
I think they might have been overmatched in experience. Some people would say talent. I'm not sure about that. Look. Baylor only had one sophomore and one freshman that contributed in that game last night. Arkansas had three freshmen. 80% of their scoring came from juniors and seniors. Arkansas was like 68%. They had four guys with previous NCAA tournament experience from 2 years ago, because there was no tournament last year, and they played two games. Arkansas had one guy who played one game 2 years ago. So I think that was a big difference. The good news is Arkansas now has five guys that went deep into the tournament and played in those games. It's really going to help next year. Yeah. I'm telling you, previous NCAA tournament experience is big when you get there.
It definitely is. TL Slayton wants to know, did Moses Moody hurt Arkansas's chances to go to the Final Four? And what do you think about one-and-done players?
Okay, there's a lot of talk on social media last night. I thought it was pretty fair. There weren't too many over-the-top guys. It occurs to me that Moses, because he was Arkansas perceived to be by other coaches and certainly the fans to be Arkansas's best player, he got their best game planning. Mm-hmm. I think teams schemed to stop him, and a lot of people aren't looking at that. But I think that's what happened to him in the NCAA tournament. Every game, they went after him defensively to slow him down. But then that opened the door for other players, and I think that's why some guys like Devo and others played better. And look, he scored 11 points last night.
He scored in double digits in every game.
11 points. His average was 17. So if he scores 6 more, do they win? No. I think what happened was a lot of people said, oh, I want him to score 20 or 30 or just go crazy. And that didn't happen. And I think it's sometimes tough on a one and done to get in there, and there's pressure on them, and they know this might be their only time in the tournament, and you put too much pressure on yourself.
And to be fair for him, who is scoring 30-plus points in an NCAA tournament game?
Yeah,
individually.
Not too many one and dones do that. And one and dones typically don't play well. That's why Kentucky's had trouble in the tournament. It's just the way it is. Now, what do I think of one and dones? I don't like it. The only solution, though, would be to the NBA to voluntarily do what the NFL does and say, we're going to let you have these guys until the end of their junior year, because you've let the colleges develop them. You don't have to spend all that money and time developing them once they come out. And think about somebody like Moses Moody. I hope he's in the NBA for 10 years. But what is the likelihood that he could stay in the NBA for 10 years if he had 2 more years experience and then went in, as opposed to going in now? So I think doing away with one and done would help the players, it would help the team, save them money, and none of that's going to happen because the system we got is, I believe it's going to stay that way.
Yeah, all right. Grandy Hogg says, compare Justin Smith and Corliss Williamson. They seem to have similar roles.
Yeah, similar roles. Corliss probably was more of a scorer than Justin, and maybe more of a rebound. He was a better player. I mean, Corliss was a stud. We've only seen Justin for 1 year, but he did a tremendous job this year. But they were similar players, just maybe some. And I would also say that Corliss had a better group of people around him inside. You know, he had Darnell Robinson, he had Lee Wilson. You know, he had some guys that could get in there and take the heat off of him and allow him to do that. I think Jalen Williams may have that next year, for instance. They've already, looks like they've got a 6'9" guy coming in, 6'10" or whatever, and they may bring in more. So I think the inside game, there's not going to be as much pressure on your bigs next year as there was this year.
Yeah. All right, Austin Hog fan asks, have you ever seen an Arkansas team in any sport have this kind of success with almost a completely new team as our basketball team under Coach Muss? The ability to bring in freshmen and grad transfers together and use just the right mix against the opponent has far exceeded expectations.
Yeah, I would agree, and I've never seen that. That was the amazing thing about this team, and I think the fans appreciate that. You compare it to the other teams that are great teams in Arkansas's past, it was less experienced. And you had that weird kind of a thing between the true freshmen and the grad transfers, and they all kind of work together. And that didn't just happen overnight. I actually think the COVID thing may have helped them because they're in there in that bubble last summer trying to keep from getting sick, and they're all in there working out. And I think during that period of time, you saw some bonding that took on place within these guys, and it made them a fun team to watch and a team that was unlikely to get there. If you had asked me, even before that, certainly before that run took place in February, but even afterward, I'd said, look, I don't know if they're Elite 8, Sweet 16 maybe. So they overachieved.
Yeah. Hog says, hopefully we have to wait a few more weeks to have Coach Muss and Hunter Yurchek contract updating. I'm guessing we will throw the bank at him. And how high do you think we go, and will it be more than what we pay Coach Pitt? Oh, sorry about butchered that one. I apologize.
That's all right. I don't think it's going to be much longer at all. I don't think it's weeks. I think maybe just a few days. I think they've already talked the way it sounds. I'm guessing he's probably going to, he's at 2.5, I think. I think he'll go to at least 3 and maybe 3.5. And if he goes past Coach Pittman, who's right now $3 million a year, I don't think Coach Pittman will have a problem with that. They're good friends. Coach Pittman wants what's best for the athletic department, and Coach Pittman knows if he's going to get a raise, he got to have a season like this. So I think it could go as high as $3.5 million, maybe more. I don't know. We'll see. But it will happen pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Whippersnapper wants to know, what do you think it would be like to watch this tournament run with Coach Richardson? Any chance you can sneak a camera and microphone to his house for commentary? Just kidding. I know he is a big fan of this team and Muss. Though he actually might let us sneak in a camera and a microphone for commentary.
Next year, maybe. It's a good idea.
Yeah, we'll put that one in the back of our
So
minds.
what would it be like? Well, I can tell you what it would be like if I was there. First of all, I would learn a lot about basketball because he would be sitting there talking about what was going on, and he would explain things, and you would learn that. At halftime, anytime there's timeouts, halftime, or whatever, he's going to tell some funny stories, and nobody could crack me up. Maybe Norm DeBryan, but those two guys could crack me up like nobody else. Nolan is incredibly funny when he starts telling his stories of things that he's been through. So you'd have that. And at least one time while you were watching that game, at least once, maybe more than once, he would say something that you've never heard before, and you've never heard it put that way before, and you might not think about it until a day or two later, but you'd go, whoa, I never thought about that. I think he's right. He did that all the time to me, so it would be a lot of fun.
That would be really cool. And Hogs We Trust asks, do you think the men's basketball team's talent compares to some of the better teams that we've had?
Here's the problem, again, when you talk about talent. You have these 3 freshmen on this team. And there's been no Arkansas team that's gotten this far into the tournament that had that many freshmen.
Yeah.
They all were pretty experienced. So it's hard to say because we'd have to translate and figure out where these 3 guys would be if they were juniors and seniors as opposed to where they are now. So to say, how does it compare talent-wise? I'm just going to take a wild guess and say it's probably not quite as talented as the 94, 95 team, probably close to the 90 and 78 teams. But again, it's an impossible thing to say talent-wise because of these young players, and we don't know how. We're not going to see about Moses, but maybe in 2 years, Moses is a stud NBA player. Well, where would he have been if he'd have been a junior here or a senior?
It's kind of more of a retrospective, look back kind of answer. And I apologize for yawning, man. Little girl keeps me up at night. And my sleep is all over the place.
Wouldn't
so
believe
I'm
how much work she's done in the last 2 days.
A lot of yawning and not a lot of sleep thanks to this baby in my belly. All right, Pork Soda wants to know, outside of Bumper Pool and Grant Morgan, who do you think will step up at linebacker?
I got to look at my notes here because I'm old and I can't remember all this stuff. Look, Hayden Henry is a 5th-year senior. He's going to play this year. They're very glad that he came back. Deion Edwards is a 4th-year senior, and he'll play some. The 2 guys you mentioned are going to play. I mean, you know, the starters are going to play a lot of the time, but these are backup people. Andrew Parker, he's a 4th-year junior. We may see him some. And then there's these 2 guys, Levi Draper, who's a really big linebacker. And next year, not this fall, but the year after that, you're going to see some of him a lot. And then Zach Zemos, who I think they felt good about him, but he got hurt last year. So we may see him some this fall in a backup role. So.
You know, don't sleep on Chris Pooh Paul. He's a freshman, and he's from Georgia, and I got to talk to him, and he was real pumped up and really excited to learn behind Bumper Pool and Grant Morgan. So, hey, maybe that might be my, like, I'm calling it now.
Okay.
This kid will be a starter at a linebacker as a freshman. I don't know. Just throwing it out into the universe. Maybe he'll smack me back in the face. We'll see. All right, Pork Tongue wants to know, when the restrictions are lifted, do you expect the same amount of access to all things hogs when it opens up, like face-to-face interviews and a lot less virtual?
We've all talked about this, and we have appreciated the fact that on these Zooms, you don't have to load up a camera, drive over there, get out, haul it in, do the press conference, come all the way back. So it's honestly been more convenient and more efficient. We don't like it.
Yeah.
At least I don't. I still want face-to-face contact. I still want to. I mean, this whole football season, this whole basketball season took place without me seeing any of these guys face-to-face. And you don't see other media people either. So hopefully it'll be back to normal next fall, and we can go over there and do this stuff one-on-one.
Today I went over, the men's basketball team got back, and so they had a bunch of people at the basketball practice facility to welcome the team back. And of course, this is the first time the team has seen anybody outside of their own each other and had actual interaction with in 3 weeks. But it's the first time I saw like Hunter Yurachek and his wife Jennifer in a while. And one, it's always really funny because I am so pregnant and no one has seen me really honestly in a year, and they're like, hey, and they're like, oh, look, you have a giant belly. But you know, I got to see some of the assistants for the women's team for the first time in a year for face-to-face. It was like really refreshing to see people.
This stuff to be over.
Yes, I want to see people. It was so good to see people today. Okay, Snout Team wants to know, we've had great success in basketball this year. It seems we are doing the same in baseball. What win-loss record would it take for the average fan to feel the same about football this season? In your opinion, what has to happen for that to be possible?
A whole lot. They would have to go at least 5-3 in the SEC and win all their non-conference games, which would be a 9-win season, and go to a good bowl game. Now, that's probably not going to happen next year, but it's a nice goal to have 2 years down the road. But you know, we'll let football happen when it happens. I think we're still enjoying. Basketball's over now. Now it's baseball.
Yeah, let me just focus on baseball. Man, let's give this baseball team some love. They definitely deserve it. All right, Redleg wants to know, what will it take for Coach Musselman and his staff to keep the best in-state talent from going elsewhere, especially to other SEC schools, to help them beat the Hogs? I would think that a deep run in the NCAA tourney and Moody being a freshman lottery pick would definitely help.
Well, the problem's already solved because he's already doing that. It's not like he's losing guys. That's one of the main things that he's done, is he stopped this trend for the best in-state player to go somewhere else. You know, Kentucky, Ohio State, Florida. You're not losing these guys anymore. And he's cleaned up. I mean, you look at last year, K.K. Robinson, Devo Davis, Moses Moody, Jalen Williams. Those are the top 4 guys in the state. He got all of them. He's doing the same thing right now. So don't worry about that. Coach Muss has that taken care of, and yes, it will get even better with what they've done.
Yeah, absolutely. The spotlight does not help. Lem Branch Cheshire wants to know, did the Diamond Hogs sweep of Mississippi State surprise you?
Yes, it did, and I'll tell you why. Because when they entered that series, their team batting average was down to 266.
Yeah.
I was watching those guys have a hard time hitting midweek pitching.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking they just don't have the hitting to stay where they are right now. And Mississippi State supposedly had a good pitching staff with a really good bullpen. So I thought, we're going to see a whole bunch of 3-2 and 2-1 losses. Maybe they'll win one game. And yet, what happened? I mean, the numbers here are unbelievable. Go in hitting 266. Now they're back into the 280s after that weekend. They had 30 hits combined in those games, 12 home runs, and they're 25. They outscored these guys 25-11. I would have never thought that. So they're looking a lot better than they did going into that series. Now they've still got the best overall record in the SEC. In at least one poll, they've been #1 for a month, which is hard to do, and they're #2 overall in the SEC at 5-1. Ole Miss is 6-0, but guess what? Ole Miss has played the bottom 2 teams in the West. Arkansas has already gone to the #3 team in the country and got a sweep. So believe me, baseball team is in good shape.
Absolutely. All right. We always love to end with a good Lanny question. Talk about Jalen Tate. His post-game interview was heartfelt, and you could feel the pain and appreciation he had for Musselman and Arkansas.
Well, I've always believed that athletics is a great lesson about life. That's what I got out of it a million years ago. It taught me how to be a member of a team like we have here. How do you have to sacrifice maybe what's best for you to be what's best for everybody else? And then how many of us have been in a decision where you have a job, you're thinking about going to another job, but you're really nervous about it. You're going to get a new boss, you're going to have new coworkers, and he talked about taking a leap of faith, and he's going to get a new coach and new teammates, and he's not sure what's going to happen. And then he gets here, and inevitably when you do that, they're going to change you a little bit. And he got pushed in directions maybe he didn't want to go in. But in the end, he realized last night it was the best decision he ever made. And that is a tremendous lesson about sports, is that you learn things through athletics that will serve you, I promise you, the rest of your life. They are these things that coaches teach you. If you do it right, if you have the right coach and you have the right attitude, and you don't have to be on a team that goes undefeated to do that. You know, you can be on I was on one team that had a losing record, but I still learned things from that season. So,
very, very well said, Mike. We're going to miss Jalen Tate. Maybe he stays, though. He could stay. Don't quote me. Gosh.
Yeah, he might. Some of those guys,
see.
they have the option.
They do have the option.
I don't think they're coming back.
We don't know.
I don't
We
think
don't know
Moses Moody is
anything.
coming back, but I think
have
the
the
program
option.
is in good shape.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be another 25 years before they make it to the Sweet 16. All right, that is going to do it for this week's Ask Mike. Again, if you have a question for Mike, just head on over to hogville.net and the Ask Mike forum. For Mike Irwin, I'm Melissa Orange. We'll see you next week.